I started working in the field of rare diseases about 35 years ago when I was at FDA. The original Orphan Drug Act passed by President Reagan, signed into law in 1983, wasn't working so well. So the Deputy Commissioner of the FDA asked me to look into it and figure it out. My research led then to the 1984 and the 1985 amendments to the Orphan Drug Act, and then I was asked to write the implementing regulations to make it work. What I've done since I left the FDA in 1987 is I've helped develop new medicines for rare conditions. So I've seen the pharmaceutical industry in two ways, reach out and ask me for help in trying to, one, look after the safety of patients involved in clinical trials, and then two, how do we find ways to maintain the integrity of the trial so that all the effort that patients have made to participate in these trials, to volunteer and heroically participate in these trials, won't be wasted. I think what the FDA came out with was really tailored to our needs of our time. They helped try to direct the industry to understand how it could ensure the safety of patients and maintain the integrity of the trials that were underway. They gave us examples of how we can go ahead and make amendments to protocols so that the protocols can continue. And they could make amendments sometimes without having to get FDA prior permission, so that they were being more lax in demanding that companies otherwise would have to get prior permission to make changes. And they said these are unusual circumstances, and so we need to act rapidly to be able to respond to these times. And I think the FDA guidance was spot on. The FDA sometimes applies quite rigorous standards to performance in trials, and I think that what we like to see is that the FDA might announce that they will be more forgiving. And maybe even when it comes to imputing, what it means is if you have a missing data, how do you supply the information that's missing? So how do you impute missing data? And maybe come up with some more forgiving ways to be able to impute missing data. So I'm even going beyond flexibility and going to forgiveness. And maybe that's something that the FDA could consider. I think that we have not fully exploited the possibility of telemedicine. What does that mean? That means that a patient would be able to participate in a trial by being able to stay in their home and have their measurements made remotely. The miracle of telemedicine might allow us to expand the number of people who could participate in trials. And not only participate in trials, but just for the care of patients in the community, in their own community, so that even if they're not participating in trials, just for their regular care, could that be provided without having the burden of travel? Maybe because of telemedicine, as we begin to become more sophisticated, we'll be able to have more diverse communities of people involved. That is, the people in the Adirondack Mountains or Fargo, North Dakota won't be discriminated against, that they'll be able to participate too. During these times when we're sheltering at home, you might forget that there are a lot of people who care a great deal about you. So, what I think you need to know is that in these times you're not forgotten. You are remembered. There are many who care for you and love you. It's almost as though all of us who are involved in working every day to try to provide for you, like those of us at the Every Life Foundation for Rare Diseases, and all those people who you don't even know, are kind of like your silent guardian angels. You never see us. You don't know about us, but we're there for you. And we care. Thank you. Hang in there. Be strong.